Thank you for being here. Thank you for registering to this event. We all hope it's going to be as successful as the first one that took place on the 26th of November. We had north of 900 people looking at the event. Thank you very much, and we've got a lot of questions from all of you. So we really hope that these this afternoon session is going to be as interesting for you as the other one. What we are going to discover today, it's going to be more about products and in particular two collections, Sirio Color. And Sirio Color is going to be introduced by Alicia Marchetti and Simone Lucchi. They're going to take you through the process and an immersion in what we think about colors and colored paper. And the second part is going to be dedicated to HP Indigo digital collection. So the range of paper certified with HP Indigo, and it's going to be led by Marta Franceschi and Evelyn Niebauer from HP Indigo directly. So we really hope you're going to enjoy this afternoon. Stay with us and let's get started.
Fedrigoni headquarters here in Verona, Italy. By now, we imagine that all of you have had the opportunity to get to know our paper box, our collection of old Fedrigoni papers. But today, we want to focus on this volume in particular. So, uncoated colored paper, here we are, and explore with you our world of colored paper. The range that represents color per excellence is a Sirio color paper. Here with me, I have the pleasure to have my dear colleague, Simone Lucchi, our master in paper and printing. So, hi Simone, how are you?
Fine, thank you. Fine, Alice. It's a pleasure to stay with you and with everybody connected to us. It's amazing. It's a wonderful day in Verona, thanks to the color of Sirio. And so start this very nice moment together.
Yeah, you're right. Because today we will take you on an unforgettable journey to our mill surrounded by the mountains, the mill of Varone in Trentino, specialized in the production of deep colored paper. Are you ready for the journey? Let's go.
One of the most long-standing and possibly one of the most important and well-known one range is the Sirio Color by Fedrigoni. Sirio Color is characterized by a natural surface, intense and bright colors. It is produced and distributed already in the 1970s, and we have several swatch books with its name. It's always been interpreted in very different ways. From our company archive, we have found the most unique and interesting swatch books for you. At the plant in Varone, we have a production site in Trentino. We focus on pulp-colored papers like the Sirio range. It is fundamental for a plant like the Varone one is to have a dedicated lab that controls the various characteristics of products and formulas the different colors. In order to pulp coloring means adding colors in the first stage of production in the pulp. This ensures a uniform, consistent coloring, and it also ensures better characteristics in terms of abrasion resistance and transfer to water. This doesn't happen in case of substrates that are only superficially colored, where these parameters are certainly less performing. In Varone, in addition to the Sirio range, we also have other production ranges of pulp colored papers such as Savile Row, Woodstock, and Materica. In order to develop new products, it is essential to have on the side of the product a color sample that is at least five centimeters in order to be read with a spectrophotometer, and also to be able to have a good starting point for a sample and a prototype. Would also be useful to know about the usage of the end customer of the product. So it would be useful to know exactly what kind of pulp you need to produce. It can vary if it's useful binding or for covers. It's also important to know about other tactile requirements, such as a smooth surface. If that is not possible, it's good to have a larger sample to analyze in order to produce the most suited product. For the Sirio range, it is essential to study the ad hoc pulp with the presence of 100% FSC cellulose with the short fibers that gives printability, and long fibers which ensure that the support has the right mechanical features. It is also essential to choose the right coloring, therefore using high light fastness pigments or anionic direct dyes. They are also selected on the basis of their characteristics, in particular light fastness. It's also important to highlight that we use for the white a particular coloring, the optical brightening agent, the OBA, in order to ensure a high level of white. Out of all the colorings and dyes that we use, we have all the safety sheets, and they are also registered in the European REACH system. From a customer sample, in order to reproduce faithfully the required color, we use a Minolta spectrophotometer, and we obtain the various space coordinates of the color, the so-called LAB color coordinates. Then we start to produce a first lab sample, which is in turn read through the same tool, so that we can make some adjustments and get as close as possible to the sample required by the customer. The customer can then assess the lab sample prototype, which is 30 by 30, and on the basis of that they can also reproduce and create a mock-up. As for the color, the reproduced sample is very, very faithful. As for the mechanical and physical characteristics, we need to wait for the first test run production. All customers are given at least 3 samples so that they can look at the color under different light sources. It is important to highlight how important it is to look at metamerism. Metamerism makes the sample change based on the light source it is exposed to. Once that the customer has chosen the desired color, we create a production specification with all the color coordinates of the sample, as well as all the physical and mechanical characteristics required. This will then be adjusted during the first production in the paper machine. The samples are kept for at least 3 years. We have a deposit here at warehouse. Of course, we also have the samples at the studio of the customer. The new swatch book of Sirio Color is a spin-off of the paper box Fedrigoni swatch book, and it is completely reviewed. Here paper speaks. We've decided to eliminate all plastic elements and all metal spiders by using 100% Fedrigoni paper. For the cover of Sirio Color, we have developed a new product. It's my black Imitlin duplex with fiandro embossing. This protects the book. It is also anti-fingerprints and anti-scratch and gives a lot of elegance. Inside the new swatch book, we find several ranges. The Sirio Color Smooth range, which includes 30 different color shades with bright colors and a smooth surface. Then we have the Sirio Color Rough range with 11 colors selected, taken from Sirio Color Smooth, but they are characterized by a rough surface. And then we have the Sirio Color Embossed range. This concludes 21 colors taken from Sirio Color Smooth and an embossed pattern, a denim embossing on one side. And then we have the Sirio Black White range. It is a cardboard of Sirio Black and Sirio White. Then we have the Sirio White range, which includes one natural white color, one smooth surface, and a wide range of grammages. The Sirio Color range is the ultimate range of colored papers. It is made with 100% FSC cellulose. Thanks to the continuous search for pigments and dyes, we can ensure in all colors a perfect light fastness. The entire Sirio range is pulp colored using pigments and dyes, respecting the most stringent certifications on safety and environmental impact. To ensure that a color is truly pulp colored, just take a sheet, rip it, and you will see that the internal substrate is also colored. In terms of printability, Sirio certainly meets all the needs of our customers. Sirio is made only of pure cellulose. This ensures printability and mechanical resistance thanks to a mix of short fibers and long fibers. Also, the uniformity of the color in technical terms, ensures better performances both in covers or solid boxes, but also to produce hard and softer covers. In all samples and swatch books, including Sirio, it's very important to give some printed samples. And here, through research with our communication agencies and our suppliers, we try and give the best possible expression of our papers, both in terms of printing techniques and enhancement of the support of the media. In the printed examples, we find the ladder very often. This is something that we feel close to our hearts at Fedrigoni because it is reminiscent of the family, the historical family of Verona, the Scaliger, but it's also in the brand, in the logo of Fedrigoni. All the elements in Sirio are the result of a challenge that we've decided to tackle with the communication agency that's followed us and our suppliers. It's very interesting to look at the comparison between a smooth, natural, uncoated paper and a jasmine-colored paper. In the first case, we've printed using UV printing technique, and here you can see that the details and the print outcome show a very high color saturation, much higher if compared to offset printing with oxidative inks, where you can see that the shift between the change of paper and the colors is very consistent, which is very much appreciated by publishers, agencies that print photo books and art books on both finishes, both the smooth one and the rough one. We ensure a high printability of the medium, both using offset printing and also using UV printing. On Sirio Color Rough Dark Blue, we've decided to try here a 3D effect. The overlapping of two UV white inks with different gloss levels creates, only when there is overlapping, a 3D effect. On Sirio Color Rough Flamingo, instead, we've decided to create a tone-on-tone effect using one transparent glossy layer, which has been hot printed. We have given this tone-on-tone effect. This is very elegant, but also we have great details thanks to the surface softness of the product. On the entire Sirio range, thanks to the use of the cellulose that we choose, we can obtain an excellent detail and a great effect in dry relief printing, also on black and white paper. As you can see here, we can ensure a very good level of detail, and we can reproduce also text with the Braille technique. On Sirio Color Iris, with the denim embossing, we have worked on the viscosity of the ink to ensure the total coverage of the surface and at the same time a very good detail and accuracy. We have used the same pattern, as you can see here, also on Sirio Cacao using offset UV printing. You can see the same pattern, the same object. We've used a layer of UV white ink and then two colored inks, pink and orange. The nice thing of the color effect that we obtain with a white basis is how clean it is, the offset UV overprinted ink and the basis. But what is really new in this range is the Sirio Black in the smooth and in the rough version. Here we have obtained an intensity of the black color without using any carbon black. In this way, all the prints or the metallic prints using hot foils will not undergo any oxidation, especially if the product is kept in humid environments. In particular, the smooth surface of Sirio gives us the chance to obtain a very high definition also on large surfaces with a level of detail which was unthinkable of before. The opportunity to use a colored paper is an advantage also for brand owners, which can create their boxes and products all over the world. In this case, using a pulp-colored paper, they can ensure a consistent color in every application. Here you can see an application for the food sector where Sirio Color Paper has been used as a secondary packaging for this panettone. And also the packaging has been enriched with a sleeve made in Sirio Sirio Color Nude. Everything has been enhanced with an offset silver print and also a hot print with a silver foil. Another example in the publishing sector, Sirio Color here has been used to customize each of the covers of these booklets, which are all contained in a box made in Sirio Color Black. Another example, Sirio Color Blue Smooth Surface. It's been used as a coverage for this packaging for a fragrance of a well-known brand in the Middle East. In this case, the enhancement is made with 3 different colors of foils. The Sirio Color range has also been used in different colors as a secondary cover for this chocolate brand. Different colors have been characterized by a white screen printing and using water-based colors. In the wine and spirit sector, we can also use the Sirio Color range here. Cacao has been used as a cover for this box for a wine. The whole has been enhanced with a hot gold print and a transparent silk screen printing. The Sirio Color range is very good for graphic sets. In this case, I can show you an example of a shopping bag, a shopper bag, and a scarf envelope. They are perfectly coordinated. You can see that the white part, which is not particularly nice to look at, has completely disappeared in this case. And also we can notice that the inside lining of the shopper has exactly the same color as the outside. Let's close with Sirio Lampone. In this case, it has been used for the cover and the creation of envelopes for the Chinese New Year. With this beautiful journey, we hope we have inspired you for your new projects. We have shown a preview of our new swatch book, Sirio Color, which includes many new things inside it. You will find the new colors, jasmine, milkshake, flamingo, and royal green. As Simone said, you will find an implemented formula for the new black color, as well as the new Sirio Color Rough range. As Simone perfectly illustrated, we've also included a section of printing examples. Right, Simone? Exactly. You will find it inside each of our new swatch books. So you will find a special section at the end where you can see everything that Simone described. It's just given us a short sneak preview, really, because with Sirio Color, we can do endless projects. Is that correct, Simone? Yes, that's true. We have chosen to add some printed examples to give an idea, to give some ideas to our customers, to graphic designers, to communication agencies, and we've tried to show what you can do using our products. So these are just some ideas, some examples, and we've shown how far you can go by turning an idea into a product, say a printed book or an insert in a book or in a magazine. And as we often say, by the way, especially right now, from paper box, now choosing paper is a creative act. We often say it, but how can you choose a paper? In our paper box alone, we have more than 700 printed samples, and we know that creativity is limitless. But among these endless possibilities provided by Fedrigoni papers, how can you choose? What do you need to take into account for each individual project? Well, first of all, the paper box tool is a support for all our customers, because in one single tool you can find all our papers, all our colors, and this means that you can then go and visit the end customer, having a library of books which otherwise would be very, very difficult to show in real time. It's also quite nice, before we talk about paper, it's interesting to perceive the idea of the customer and understand what they want to obtain. On the basis of this, choosing then the paper and the right range, we can get to the right color. So it's a whole process. It's a chain of choices and elements so that from an idea, you can then end up with a final product. And for each project, it is also important to take three key elements into account. The grammage, first of all. We need to find the right grammage for each project. And in such a wide range as the one of Sirio Color, we have, again, an endless number of grammages from 80 until a board of 700 grams. So you see the possibilities are endless. And then we need to remember the usage and find the right mix for the pulp. So we need to define the adequate mix between short and long fibers based on the usage of the end object. And then, of course, communication and aesthetics are a third aspect that needs to be taken into account. A colored paper can give an added value. Exactly. It is important to understand the end usage, as you've just mentioned, and as Johnny said in his presentation. It is a fundamental starting point in order to then help the customer choose the right Fedrigoni product. The end usage is essential to define the technical features of the product. A paper with long fibers will have a high resistance to double falls, so let's say a shopping bag or a packaging. Papers that have to withstand light, such as the Sirio range, where we always use dyes with a high light fastness. Well, in this case, it is important to know exactly what products should be chosen so that you don't have unpleasant surprises and unexpected surprises. We as Fedrigoni, we only choose high light fastness pigments. Our suppliers cooperate with us, and every single month search for the best possible products, and we ensure the same color, true consistency. You mentioned Johnny Leone, a colleague of ours from the lab in Varone, whom we'd like to thank very much. We call him our color specialist because it is true, he is the expert. Most of colored papers in our ranges are magically created by him. And he touched upon various topics in his video. We know that some of them are a little bit technical, but we wanted to really open the doors of our labs and show you where we work. It's a very fascinating place. We hope you have appreciated it as well. And we hope we've been able to convey this feeling through our images. Let's try and go back to some of the points he's raised. Let's look at the different steps we go through when we study a new colored paper. Well, sure. It's very nice to see how from white cellulose, by adding direct dyes, the liquid dyes, or by adding pigments with a high color saturation, we can color fibers using also water and a mix. It is important to highlight that a very small quantity of color, of dye or pigment, can color a high amount, a high quantity of cellulose. I remember that when I saw the process and I looked at a pulp of 2 tons of paper being colored by only adding a few cc's of color, I was always amazed, because this is truly a sign of how fiber can absorb color, and the entire pulp is uniformly colored. We always work coloring in the formulation of the pulp, and this creates and generates a product with very good consistency in the bottom and lower part of the board. And we could see it very, very well. We could see it in the images of Johnny's lab. We've seen that from the pulp, and we could see it, we could see the green dye that was added, and we can perfectly simulate the end color, and so that we can also have some prototypes that we can keep. They are very faithful of the end color. And also, Simone mentioned that it's very fascinating to look at this big pulper of white cellulose that gradually takes on the color with a mix of dyes or pigments, and you can see that gradually the pulp becomes very homogeneous. We've mentioned several times the pulp coloring process. It's a specific process that we use to obtain top quality colored paper. Can we talk a little bit more in detail about this pulp coloring process, which applies to our Sirio color range, for instance? Well, sure. What is pulp coloring? Well, if you see if a product has been pulp colored, just rip it, as I am doing, and you can see, look at the inside, the inner substrate has the same exact color inside and on the surface. There are examples on the market where if you look at a board, say a black board or any other colored board, if you rip the board, you see, you can immediately see that the inner substrate is white. This creates this ugly edge for those who produce high quality packaging. This is not desirable. In fact, it's not even acceptable to have this effect. Well, we can say that pulp colored papers, well, we can call them, we can define them as more performing papers with a higher performance, or certainly with a higher aesthetic value. Can you make some examples? Well, as for shopping bags, customers want pulp-colored papers. As we could see in the video, we can ensure the same color on the outside and the inside of a shopping bag, also along the edges. You really have maximum color consistency, and you don't have those ugly white cracks. And also, we can produce a color without using any plastic, because with this technique, we can increase mechanical resistance and we hide any micro crack on the surface, which is physiological in paper. I mean, we are talking about a natural product after all, but you avoid any cracks along the creases or the edges. And also, as Johnny mentioned, there's also a higher light fastness, better resistance of the color to abrasion. These are all extremely important features. They provide added value. It's a higher performance for the end product. I mean, these are aspects that must be kept in mind. Sure, it's very important to remember that the Sirio surface, both in the smooth and the rough version, are all treated superficially. What do I mean by that? In the incise press, in the section where we apply the surface water-based glue, which is eco-friendly, on that side section we produce a surface that is resistant to abrasion, and also it's highly printable. The end product is very easily printable. And Simone, I also have to mention, I can see behind you a wonderful, wonderful ladder, which for us it's very important. And I'm sure that for all of you, this ladder will become more and more familiar. Yes, as I mentioned in the video, for us at Fedrigoni, the ladder is a very important element because it reminds us of our history. It is the logo of a Fedrigoni dating back to 1888. It already had the ladder right from the beginning, and it's reminiscent of the Scaligeri family, the historical family of Verona. The ladder can be found in all the swatch books in the printed examples. You will see that we will have the most important enhancements, and we really look for aesthetics to show what you can do, preserving and using a mood, the same theme. Going back to the printed examples, and the one that Simone talked about, well, you've only anticipated some of the examples that are in the swatch book, but this is a technical tool, really, where you can see the paper brought to the extreme. You can really see the maximum performances of all the papers. In this case, in a Sirio color, we are showing all the possible enhancements and printing outcomes that can be obtained with this paper, which is really versatile. Well, often customers call me and they have phone calls with our sales managers, and often they call me and they ask me, how could you obtain this effect? Because our customers sometimes cannot replicate it immediately, and they want to know how we got it, how we made it. On the one hand, we are very flattered because this means that our spasmodic search for excellent effects and refined, engaging effects is recognized and appreciated. So it is very rewarding, but also at the same time, the phone calls that we receive, I mean, in every sheet, we do give a description of how the effect has been obtained. Well, sometimes we realize that we need to provide more specific details, but we do it. I mean, we're happy to do it. We need to give some more technical details on how to obtain these results. Or customers who are passionate about paper and are passionate about advanced technology are able to obtain this kind of results and these kind of outcomes. Often they are not really willing to search for the right product or to search for the right paper machines or processing tools. But it is also true that the art of printing, the art of enhancing a support is a tradition that is hundreds of years old. We are just trying to take it to the next level thanks to modern technology. These effects are truly amazing and fascinating. Sure, I hope that even if just in a video, you could appreciate what we are talking about. I'm sure that once you'll have the chance to actually see the prints, you will be wowed, and we hope you will obtain the wow effect that we are expecting. One more thing that we'd like to highlight on the printed examples. I don't know, maybe some of you have already had the chance to read and see the story of these ladders. The London GTF agency has worked on the design of Paperbox, and they've created this first spin-off, namely the Sirio color swatch book. Now, in this publication, in pulp, you can find the story of the ladders. You might have seen that Simone has a very big ladder behind him. I have the small one here on my shelf. Have you seen it? So you see the photos in pulp. I mean, this is not just an end in itself. This is a photo set using two different size ladders. And here we have proof of the color control ladders that we've used and that you find in all our swatch books. Now, you have the chance to ask some questions. You have the great opportunity now to ask Simone Lucchi, an expert of papers and prints. And of course, he's talked in particular about colored papers and Sirio color, but he's the expert of all papers. He's here. He can answer to your questions. You can use the chat. I can already see that many of you are sending questions, and there are some very interesting ones. Shall we start? Just one note. I am not just here today. You can reach me anytime. I mean, you can use our channels and you can contact me any day. And it's not just me at Fedrigoni who's a technical expert. We have a team, both for technical assistance and also at all our plants and production sites. So we have Johnny Leoni, for instance. They can also give you timely answers to your questions. So it's not just today. That was a good point. Of course, you're not alone. You are here with us. But it's true, we have a Fedrigoni network, which is present throughout Italy, Europe, and the world. So it was only fair to say that our agents and our representatives are more than willing. All our paper experts are there for any questions you may have or for your needs. So let's start with the questions that I've received. Mary Ann is asking, is it possible to use the laser cut on Sirio color? And if so, can you see the burnt edge? On all Sirio color colored papers, yes. The answer is yes. Because, of course, the pulp colored paper hides any type of reaction between the fiber and the high heat of the laser cut. As for Sirio white, in this case, the paper with a high degree of white, I mean, if it undergoes a laser cut, this might cause, where the cut is made, a minimum variation in the color. It might become slightly darker. It's important to say that on the market there are some lasers, some LED lasers with a low temperature, so it is possible to be able to obtain or to laser cut without using high temperatures in the incision process. And this is very good because it prevents this natural effect of a change in color if high temperature is used in a laser cut. Well, and in fact, in this case, we have an example. We talked about it last week, didn't we? This is the box of the paper box, and actually you can see here, this is a Sirio black, 700 grams, and it's been laser cut. I don't know if you can see it from the webcam, but the cut here has been made with laser. It's very clean, and the black is perfectly black. So based on the support that you're using, you need maybe to set the laser machine correctly, but Sirio is good for any type of application. Simon instead is asking, what kind of paper has the best resolution and quality for professional printing of an art book, where colors are very accurate and this is essential? In order to obtain color faithfulness in terms of saturation, it's important to say that you need to use media with a white level that is not too high. So the OBA applied to the pulp and added to the pulp should not alter through the light source on the end product the color of the printed image. Of course, within Sirio, we can talk about print only on the white color, or you could use a Sirio with a 4-color print using a basis of white color to prevent any pollution, any contamination of the printed color with the underlying support. If I were to give a recommendation on the best Fedrigoni papers in beyond the Sirio range, I would certainly mention the X-Pair range in the new white color, where we have reduced the quantity of OBA, and so the color is more neutral, the shade is more neutral. Also, the Arena range is another recommendation. In that case, the white shade has a very natural effect without an excessive quantity of OBA, of optical brightening color. And then in Arena, we also have the natural shade. It is OBA free, no OBA whatsoever. And so you can print by preserving the same shade regardless of the light source under which the product is observed. And then I could also mention tatami. Tatami is a thick coated paper with a new color, and there again you can bring out the brightness of a coated paper, but at the same time the printed color is not altered, does not change with a different light source. And in the new swatch book, I mean, we've launched a new range this year, Sirio Color Rough. It's colored paper with a rough surface. So, given all the features of our Sirio color ranges, let's say that it's very suited to coordinated sets, but here is a more specific question. What is the difference between Sirio Color Smooth and Sirio Color Rough in terms of application and printability? That's a good question. Well, basically, the difference between Sirio Color Smooth and Rough, let's say that in terms of printability, the differences are not that strong. The smoothness, the level of smoothness, of course, implies the need to increase the pressure on the blanket in the rough version. However, let me remind you that both smooth and rough have the same pulp. The only thing that varies is that in the rough version, we do not activate the cylinder that smooths the surface of the product, and the level of the smoothness is the same as the other uncoated smooth papers that we have in the Arena range or other ranges. So, in terms of printability, I wouldn't really say there are big differences between the smooth and the rough versions. As for the dot gain, in both cases, I have to say that in the printed areas with a higher density, the dot gain in the printed version is very small. It's truly minimal. So when we work in pre-printing with adequate techniques, you can ensure the right color shifts also in very dark areas of the printed product. A last point that I would like to highlight, especially for those of you who are more technical, given the difference of bulk and thickness between the two products, it is important that in the rough version, you use a die cutting tool with a width and depth of creases that are suited to the thickness. Why am I saying this? Because often clients use the same die cutting tool on different supports, and that causes some problems. Instead, the right width and depth of the creases, as well as the right inclination of the die cutting tool, means that you obtain a packaging that doesn't crack, and the folds will really be smooth and ensure a perfect parallelism in the end packaging. A question that comes from Roberto. He asks, the sense of the fiber, is it important? This applies not only for the Sirio range, but this applies to all sort of paper support, right? Yes, the sense of the fiber is fundamental. It's very important. We are getting used to seeing prototypes or renderings on monitors, on screen, but we are forgetting the basic rules that must be followed to obtain the right packaging or the right end product. The sense of the fiber is something that matters in all situations. So it's true for publishers, for binding, but it's also something that matters for packaging. It's very important when printing billboards. Why? Well, because the right direction, the right sense of the fiber gives you the chance to obtain a product with higher performances versus a product that is made with the same characteristics but with the wrong sense of the fibers. As for packaging, I always recommend setting the sense of the fiber that is parallel to the main cuts, because that's where you will see any cracks. And the same applies to labels. The sense of the fiber is very important. It must always be parallel to the basis. But I mean, I could make many, many examples, and it is certainly an aspect that is important. If you have any more questions or more specific questions, I'll be happy to give you my time to answer your doubts and questions. We mentioned several times that the Sirio range has a wide range of grammages from 80 grams up to 700 grams. And in particular, the two heaviest grammages are the 480 and the 700 grams. Here's a question. What are the applications for these grammages? And are there any limitations in printing for such high thicknesses? In the offset printing, which is the main printing technique used on these products, well, on litho offset printing machines, you can print without issue from 40 grams, the Bible paper, up to 500 grams. In the second case, usually we should talk about 0.5 millimeter. Above that, there are some mechanical limitations. In order to use our thicker boards, you can use other printing techniques using the right technologies for those who work with cardboard, flat cardboard or undulated cardboard. There are printing machines that have curvature angles when the sheet goes through, and you can avoid any cracks on the paper. I'm talking about machines that are used especially for those who make food packagings or counter displays that are particularly big. I don't really see any big issues when it comes to hot printing or silk screen printing, because the printing process happens with a direct transfer, so there's no need to apply a pressure or a linear pressure on the paper. As for other enhancements, using digital techniques, for instance, with HP Indigo, you can print up to 400 microns, also in the new B2 format, with the HP Indigo 10,000 and 12,000 versions. There can be some limitations on the toner-based printing technique, because often you need to insert the sheets using a manual procedure with a trade bypass, but we're talking 10 sheets of paper max. One of the examples that I would like to emphasize, because it's very beautiful, is the edge gilding finishing. We often see, or at least that's something that we saw before COVID, very often we saw some invitations for fashion shows or in the luxury sector where our boards were processed with this edge gilding finishing with a gold edge, or using Pantone colors or specific textures. The end result, I believe, is incredible, is amazing. With the addition of coordinated envelopes, I mean, the product is top. It's really amazing. Yes, there's a very special effect that we might know on books, but it's true. Some invitations were also made in this way. The result is very peculiar. Now, let's continue with the last few questions. Is it possible to make a sample of Sirio in the A4 format with a special color required by the customer? Yes, sure, absolutely. Every day, Johnny and his team develop colors under request of our customers. As you could see in the video, we make samples with a 30 by 30 centimeters size, and in this way we can reproduce on such a big sample. We can really give the customers the opportunity to create a mock-up. These samples have the right color, and we can create some samples also using specific superficial textures, embossings or markings such as acquerello or tintoretto. And yes, a service that we provide with some minimum order quantities. You can request for a specific format or a specific embossing or a specific color. If you need more information, you can, of course, contact our experts in your countries, in your area. Last two questions. Do you have recycled colored papers? The answer is, of course, yes. Not Sirio color, but really we have many ranges of colored paper. I could mention some: Woodstock, Savile Row, Materica, with a high percentage of the recycled or the use of alternative fibers. Again, if you want to have more information and more details, and by the way, these are all papers you can find in our paper box, but if you want more information, you can see, and if you want to have our technical sheets, you can go to our website, fedrigonipapers.com. If you go to the paper selector section, you can find all our papers, you can view them, and you can see the technical sheets. One more question, the last one. How can we have the posters behind you? Well, I'm happy that someone's noticed it. We talked about ladders, but Simone behind him has another ladder in the poster behind him. We say that the Sirio color range is available in 30 different shades. And so we have worked with GTF, and we've produced this specific ladder. You can see here this design that can be found on all the 30 shades of Sirio color, and they are silk screen printed. They are very valuable posters. They're wonderful, beautiful. We have the Sirio black example. We had 9 implemented colors, but soon we'll be back. We'll come back to you with some more news on this. Now, I think that the time is over. For now, at least for today, I would like to remind you that in 5 minutes' time, we are going to have another session, Marta Franceschi and Evelyn Nibauer, and they will talk about something that is very new. We've talked about Sirio color today. They will talk about digital printing, and in particular, they will focus on HP Indigo. So relax, have a coffee.
In 5 minutes, stay tuned and master your vision.